feel strange sometimes, but relax. It's gonna be fine, 'cause things are gonna be alright.
And here we are.
We're on.
Good evening, everyone.
Look, good evening, Dirk Girl. And hello, Kate. How are you?
I'm very good. Hello, everybody. I'm streaming in today from Bunjalung country.
Dirk
Yes, I'm on Bunjalung country too, which is where Dirt Girl World is based. And given that we're going to be talking about the future, I'd like to start by holding space for the past, the present, and the future, and acknowledge the traditional owners of this country that we now call Australia, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, past, present, and future. They are the first scientists of this land, the first storytellers, the first families. And this tonight is a conversation between us and all of you families. And so I'm carrying that knowledge, that wisdom, that innovation in my heart as we move forward. And I'm so excited too. Hi, Costa. Where are you? Whose country are you on?
I'm down on Gadigal and Bidigal land of the Eora here in Sydney. And I, like you, acknowledge the elders past, present and emerging. And I suppose, given what we're talking about, acknowledge the nature of country, everything about nature, everything about the environment, and everything that we as families and as custodians can do things about. And I think that's really our wonderful opportunity to be able to recognise where we sit in this timeline and what we want it to look like as a result of our time here. And there's lots of opportunities for us to do things, to leave it nothing more than just to leave it with the capacity to be what it can be in the future. And I think that's exciting. And you know, with everyone rolling in and the idea of tonight's chat to talk with all of the people coming in tonight to see how we can do it together. And you know, COP26 is sort of the big global gathering, but you know, as you know, Dirk Girl, it's the little things that we can do every day to then really drive the big picture. And that's really what we're in this space at the moment, this opportunity to make those big changes and set some, you know, road markers on the street and say, hey, where are we heading? And that's what's happening.
Yeah, we're definitely in a time of opportunity. That's how I see it. And we have facts, and now we can decide what we're going to do. And, you know, we've said for a long time that little things make a big difference. We also are calling on leadership as well. And it's all about ecosystems, I reckon, and all about balance. But you and I, Costa, Kate, our gang, we always start with connect, understand, and act. And I would love to hear from everyone's hearts, first of all. If we're going to be talking about protecting what we love, we've got to know what we love, and we've got to go outside and enjoy it and be joyous and have it enter our cells. So Costa, Kate, and our friends at home, I would like to know one moment that you've had this past week where you've been outside and felt awe or wonder for our planet or your ecosystem or your naturehood.
And you might not have done this before with us, but we've got this new thing called a waterfall. And so we want you to comment about where you've connected with nature lately. But we want to do a countdown. So we're going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then you're going to push return. And then in the comments, we're going to have a waterfall of nature happening. So let's give it a go. Have a
Yeah.
chance.
Here we go.
Have a think about where have you connected with nature. Type it in. Type it into the comment bar. I'm going to type mine in.
Oh yeah, I'll type mine in too.
And when Kate says you, she means all of you lot at home, all our families and friends and young
That's
people
right.
tuning
Everybody.
in from all over. I'm going to type
That's right.
mine
Here we
in
go.
too.
So type it in, and here we go. We're going to count. Has everyone got theirs in? Just waiting for Dirt Girl. I can tell she's typing. She's got her typing face on. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hit chat, and let's see where everyone's been. Oh wow! Oh my goodness! Look, they're all flowing in. Where are they? Where's everybody been in nature? Dirt Girl, what are you seeing?
Oh, they're coming fast.
Hold on,
Yeah.
unmute. I'm just looking. They're coming in super fast. People have been in their backyards. We've got Bailey Park. He's been in Clayton Bay in South Australia, cloud watching and kayaking with his dog. Donna's been watering her garden. Penny's pumped because she's got Costa's book. Oh, we've got so many amazing people tuning in. Costa, you saw flannel flower propagation. That sounds incredible.
Yeah. We were out visiting a garden, and the gardener there is an amazing lady, and she's developed her native garden in such a way that she's mimicking the ridgetop country of the northern beaches of Sydney so well that the flannel flowers that she's growing, she's just allowed them to flower and then for the seed to fall and blow onto the ground. And she had baby flannel flowers. Now, people collect those and try and propagate them in all sorts of ways. They use fire, they use heat, they use all these things. And she has just allowed nature to do it. And when you see nature do it, it just looks so easy. And you could see that it was how the wind had blown too, because it was downwind. And they were all sort of scattered in a straight line. And yeah, they're those moments when you just say, oh, it's like when you see tomatoes pop up in the compost. There was an effort. Wasn't a lot of effort required. You just gave it the conditions and let it happen. So yeah, that was my moment, Dirt Girl. Because you don't see that. I haven't seen that, and I get excited when I see nature dancing.
That is so cool. There's so many incredible answers in nature. And you know what? I have a friend who says that when it comes to nature, systems are doing it for themselves. You like that, Costa?
Look, there are so many fantastic comments.
I'm just going to write that one down.
I'll have to put it up as a thing. Hey, if you can see, there's heaps and heaps of comments. There's someone calling in from Oslo, from Norway as well. People doing all kinds of things. It looks like everyone's taking advantage of being outside and connecting with nature, which is just fantastic. Fantastic. What a waterfall. Well, that's our very first waterfall. You might notice that I had to make all the waterfall a lot smaller in its writing because it was taking over the whole screen. But it's all good. We're under control now. I thought one of the things that we might like to do today, because of course we're hanging out when we're talking about all things love and nature and all the sorts of little things that we can do, but we're also really mindful that there is this big global conversation happening, and tonight we're going to be talking to families, and I just think if we can all be really mindful of that. We've got loads of kids sitting here having the conversation with us tonight as well, which is exactly what we wanted. Heaps of people saying that they've got their family sitting with us. What is COP? What does it stand for? And how are we talking about it? And it was luckily enough that there's this fantastic group in the UK called Hubbub, and they've put out some slides about this. And so I just thought we would have a little tiny look at some slides about what they say what they say it is. Let's see if I've got this all happening. I think I have. I think we can see the slides at the same time. I still have to go back a couple. Here we go. That's it. Beauty. So what does COP mean? So basically, once a year, every country in the UNFCCC comes together to check the progress and set new targets in the fight for climate change. And that the COP part stands for Conference of the Parties. I was actually thinking about what else COP could stand for. I like Community of People. Any ideas, Costa? COP. What about the Committee of Possibilities? I think Dirk Girl would love that one.
Yeah, that's a nice one.
Thumbs up.
Compost is a
and so, of course,
possibility.
Compost of Possibility. There you go. And then, of course, that's happening in Glasgow right now, and people have been talking about it for a long time. So let's see what else they say about it. Basically, what is the UNFCCC? Well, of course, it's 197 countries, and they're working to look at how human and climate change is happening. And that stands for the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, which is a big mouthful, I agree. And it needs to report on the actions they're taking to tackle and to adapt to climate change. So it's a bit like a school report, really. Like, it's time for people to get together. And who's there? Well, each country sends lots of representatives, and they're taking part in all of the debates and the negotiations, but they're not the only people who are there. And that's the thing that I've been loving, because there's heaps of environmentalists and youth and First Nations people and all kinds of people having a conversation. And then there's a heap of people getting involved from home as well. And that's been incredible to see. Lots of beautiful art, incredible songs and poetry. Good things are happening at COP. And then the last little slide that Hubbub have made is, why is this year so important? And it's because at Paris, when it was COP21, it was agreed that every 5 years we'd get together and have a really big chinwag about where we're up to. And we are at that 5-year mark, but also a really special report called the IPCC, which is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. That report's come through with all the updated science, and the leaders of the world need to get together to have a really good talk about what that science is saying and what sort of decisions we should make. And that's also a great chance for us at the same time to be having the conversation. So there you go. There it is.
There's been some nice creations out of that acronym there, Kate, while you were talking. We had Caring for Our Planet, Collective One People, and the other one was Conservation of the Planet. So, yeah, nice creativity there, everyone. I like it.
Also, Collective One People. That's a nice one.
Yeah, that is a nice one. That's a really nice one. But, you know, I suppose the thing, Kate, listening to what you were talking about there, I mean, it's like anything. These sorts of meetings are a chance to, and you know, given that it's a follow up to the previous meeting and saying, okay, well, this was where these were the guidelines we set. This was what we said. How are we going to calibrate the vehicle now? I mean, it's like anyone. It's this chance to set some accountability and for everybody to see what was achieved and what's next.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great. It's just a really great chance. It's like anything in life. We have to kind of stop and have a really good deep look at stuff, make some more decisions. And I thought what would be great here right now is to have another waterfall, because I'm addicted to them. And that is basically talking about what is one thing that you like, what are you already doing to create a climate safe future? So this is this waterfall. The waterfall is share one thing you're doing to grow a climate safe future. And so everybody type something that you've been up to that you think you've got nailed at your house. And there was a few beauties before. So I'm just going to type in 1, 2, and then we'll give everybody Here we go. Here we are. All right. Jacko, do you want to do the countdown?
Yes. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
All right, I'm going to flip them across, and you guys might want to talk about them as heaps of people doing fantastic stuff.
Beautiful, sequestering carbon. We've got installation of solar panels, which is incredible. That's a key change about the type of energy we use, moving obviously towards renewable energies. We've got growing veggies at home too. Bailey, you're rocking it. That's awesome. That helps keep our food system more local. It gets our hands in the soil. It gets us getting grubby, which is amazing. Costa, what do you see?
Oh, I can see young
Come
Ben.
through.
Hello, Ben. He's composting his scraps and using them on the family garden. Good on you, Ben. And hello to Mum, Diana. That's fantastic to have you here, Benny. And thank you for composting your food scraps. That's really important. And that's exactly what I wrote. I said, I've got my share waste in the street. And that helps look after all the waste from probably about 15 houses in the street, which is pretty good. Self-sufficient gardening, watching the food miles. Good on you, Jimmy Sanderson. And Grant Bailey said, connecting with the outdoors and growing our food in Tasmania. Well, like Jimmy, Grant, you're reducing food miles by growing your own food. And Greg Clark's planting lots of natives, cool for the birds, but most of all the pollinators, because the native plants will bring the insects. The insects are the food for the birds and the lizards and that whole layer, that whole level of the food chain. So, wow, this is great stuff, Dirt Girl.
This is incredible. We've got water tank, we've got catching and storing water, and when people are gardening, they're helping keep water in the soil, in the ground as well, which is awesome. And then we see things happening like cycling carbon through the soil. I love all the talk about localization. And I think sometimes people, we need to be setting targets. We need to be making actionable maps forward and making plans. We do need to be about action. But what I'm seeing here is an ecosystem of choices. And that's what we need. We also need to be building resilience for the future, cultivating resilience and regeneration wherever we live. And that's what I love about our community, and what these answers are showing us, Costa, is that you lot, our family, get this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, going off what you're saying, we now have 8 compost bins at our primary school. That's taking that small individual responsibility and action, or a family action, but then once it goes to the school, it becomes an educational action, which then influences all the families in the school. So any thought that, oh, well, what can I do? What's my one action? No, your one action then influences the school influences multiple families, those families influence their neighbours, that naturehood then becomes a composting naturehood, and you can see how exponentially big problems get broken down by bottom up and top down, which is what COP is all about, the top down, but going from the bottom up is so valuable, and it's exactly what you were saying, Dirt Girl.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's really fair enough to feel eco grief or climate grief, whatever, wording you want to put to the feelings about the changing scope of what's possible on this planet at this tipping point in humanity and this tipping point in planetary boundaries. And I think we need to sit within the truth of our feelings about that. And then, for me, then I need to go outside. Then I need to connect with what it is we're talking about protecting. I need to feel the joy in my cells. I need to feel the vitality that I love and that feeds me and that grows my food and, grows all the food for our non-human kin. So I love hearing what other people are doing, because like going outside, that fills me with awe of our fellow humans, of what's possible. And I think as well, we've seen, as I mentioned, the scope of what's possible shift, but we've also seen a huge influx of innovation. We're seeing more and more people talking about what matters to them. And as our best friend Scrappy says, the best place to start is to begin.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
100%. I mean,
Um,
David Underwood. Oh,
I was going to say David Attenborough also had a great speech, but we probably haven't got time to watch the whole thing because this conversation is so fantastic and so important. I'm just going to put David Attenborough's speech that he did on the opening at COP. I'm going to pop it in the comments. So if you haven't had a chance, it goes for about 7 minutes. If you haven't had a chance to catch it, there's a lovely link to it there now. I've popped into the chat, so you can copy that for later and catch it up.
yeah, it's 7 minutes. It's definitely well worth, definitely a must listen to. And I like this this comment from Saffron. I'm also now making plans to study horticulture and wish to lead nature groups and share the love of the outdoors with people who need to feel calmer. So, Saffron, you're looking down the barrel of the power of outdoor health and bush adventure therapy and ecotherapy and the role of nature, but then the role that nature has played through connection to country and Indigenous healing practices for thousands of years. So learning more, understanding more, then being able to go into a position where you can help share that knowledge. I mean, that's massive. Like, that is such a big thing, because it's not just about saying, oh, well, today or this week it's COP and I'll think about doing something like that. The long-term ramifications on that exponentially are incredible. So well done, Saffron, and go for it. Diana started a sustainability subcommittee of the PNC at school. Now we have a veggie patch, an arid garden, a bush tucker, and pollinator garden. Wow. I mean, again, the exponential capacity of that action is enormous, because it's not just the people that it's influencing today, but next year the conveyor belt brings another 200 little minds into the school, and then the next year there's another 200, but out of that 200 there's 400, there's parents, then there's aunts and uncles, and then there's grandmas and grandpas. So if you multiply 200 by at least a family of potentially 12, you start to talk about big numbers. So Diana, working with the system and within the system has those incredible powers to take it that much further, and it's that individual action that becomes that collective legacy, let's say.
Yeah, and I think that's
absolutely.
so true, Costa. Like, we thanks, Kate. Sometimes we get caught up, in sort of sound bites, or we're in a hurry. But I think it's really important to have a nuanced conversation about this. And by that, I mean, when we say that little things make a big difference, that doesn't mean we don't also need to be making change from the top down. It just means that we appreciate that this is going to take an ecosystem. We're going to move from, I don't know if you've heard of Robin Wall Kimmerer, but she's the author of Braiding Sweetgrass, and she talks about moving from a monoculture, an intellectual monoculture, to a polyculture of complementary ways of thinking. We have such an opportunity now that we know change is needed, and now that we can all be working together, we can all be inspiring each other on many levels. I can compost and write to my local MP to tell them what matters to me, and not just this week while COP is on. I can do that any week. So can we all. We can choose where we buy, because the private sector has an incredible capacity to affect change, just like local government. And at the same time, we can be looking to who we want to choose to be our leaders. And all of that is meaningful action, and all of that feels good when we're engaging with what matters to us. And sometimes that is as simple as stepping outside and sitting and having a cup of tea in the sunshine.
And then that post that just popped up underneath you there, Dirk Girl, about growing some forest to save the glossy black cockatoos. In doing that, you not only bring the birds, but you bring the seed distributors. You bring an element of the ecosystem that you can actually create some certainty for. And when we each begin to develop our own pieces of certainty, that puzzle becomes like a wonderful quilt. And I might be maybe stitching away, or Save the Glossies is stitching away on their little square, but then they're also composting another square, and they're doing another square, and suddenly they've got 8 little squares. But then when they put them next to your 5 squares and my 10 squares and your other 3 squares that you're doing with this group at work, the capacity to paint, and not just a news story, but take all of the positives from the current story, tune them, focus them, recalibrate some, ditch others, and then bring together this blanket that will pave such a way for the children and the next generation, that they'll move through the stuff that we've been doing and be taking the innovation you were talking about, taking these new connections and these new ideas, and not have to wade through this should we, shouldn't we, is it time, 20 this, 30 that, 40 that. Yeah, that's what's going on at the moment, but they won't even be caught up in those toll gates, because they'll be through them and saying, well, we're aiming up there. We're not caught in this quagmire. And that I think is the bit that's exciting, because we're laying this opportunity together and I don't underestimate how powerful that one square is.
Yeah. And because what happens when all those squares come together is they form a quilt, a fabric, and if we look to our greatest teacher and our oldest teacher, nature, and because we are nature, then we understand that life thrives on abundance and biodiversity and diversity. And that's what we need here, is a diversity of solutions, an abundance of community, an abundance of connection. And, someone's asked a great question. They've said, do you think many people know what their carbon footprint is? Well, to get started, even without knowing what your carbon footprint is, there's 3 awesome places where you can start to minimize it. And that's by changing your bank, changing your superannuation, and changing your electricity provider to people who share the values that you do, to businesses that care about the next generation. So there's places that we can start. We don't need to overcomplicate it. We don't need to have all the answers. Going back to Scrappy's little gem of wisdom, the best place to start is to begin.
I think it's interesting too, because this week, one of the things that is, if we look at what they actually did talk about at COP over the last couple of days, they talked about all of the countries getting together to talk about, getting rid of deforestation. Loads of countries came on board to say, let's get 30% less methane in our atmosphere. Some countries are saying we're not going to have coal by 2040. But the thing that staggered me the most, and I use the word staggered, is that there is a staggering uptake of solar energy in the world. Like, it is just phenomenal. It completely shocked the world and all the leaders when they made predictions in 2010 about how much solar they thought we would get to at 2020. They had no idea that we would just outstrip that by miles. So I think sometimes we think some of these big changes are tricky or hard, and solar is one of those things that all around the world it's just going great gusters. It's just going gangbusters. People are completely embracing it. And so that conversation too about where people can make decisions as a country to look at methane, and all of us, the one really cool thing that we can do is keep our food waste out of landfill. That is a great way that we can have less methane in the world. Just by getting your compost right and getting it right forever has got not just that fantastic benefit of getting all those nutrients back in the soil, but it also stops methane going into the atmosphere. And that's something that we all love. Like we can talk about composting till the cows come home, but but yeah, I think it's a really cool thing to remember, that any of these big conversations that are going on, as much as we are supporting and asking for big change at the top, it's what we can do as well.
Yeah. And when you talk about compost, Kate, it makes me think about, again, not just an ecosystem of choices that we can make, but an ecosystem of benefits as well. Like, not only does that help divert methane and carbon out of the atmosphere by keeping our food scraps out of landfill, we're also keeping all those nutrients in the food cycle. We're localizing things. We're eating food that's nutritious and yummy. We're getting our hands in the soil. You know, we're either maybe talking to our neighbors in our apartment, because now we have a shared compost bin for the apartment building. It's just, there's so much goodness to tap into, one solution at a time.
Yeah, and what you talk about there, Dirt Girl, is the things that we do every day. And when we look at habits and look at routines, and we recalibrate those things that aren't regenerative, those things that are creating something such as landfill, well, when it's on a daily basis, then that meter ticks over and over. And, you know, separating your food scraps at home and then taking that ethos and letting it become part of your everyday, such that you then no longer, once you're equipped and ready, no longer put food waste into any bin wherever you go during the day. And then you don't do it at your workplace. And then when you go places, you know, I actually go to places, and, you know, when I know that there's going to be food waste, I take a container of my own, because I want that for my chickens. I want that for my compost. And I know that I can contribute. And 2 or 3 people will see that. So I'm actually doubling down with education through something that I do just as my own habit. I'm not going there saying I want everybody to see me because I'm this hero and you know, look at me. No, just when I do it because I want to do it, all that's spoken for anyway, because people just see what you do, and you don't have to. People see your street side garden, they see the street side composting, it ticks over, and then they become involved. So changing our habits, whether that's the toilet paper we choose to buy, the products we use in the house, who do we buy them from, what's that business? Find your tribe, support that tribe, grow those businesses grow career pathways for the next generation. And when they thrive, the other ones either fall by the by or they change their ways, because the model
Absolutely.
shifts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose the other thing to think about is, you know, there's a lot of discussion about hope, and it's really funny for me because I love the word courage. I think it's like hope in action is sort of like when we have the courage. And I was just wondering, there's so many groups I think we all hang out with, whether it's land care or, I'm not going to say them all because we're going to have another waterfall, because it's waterfall time. To think about those people that give you courage. Well, who are the people and the organizations? It may be someone in your family, but have a think about who is the people who inspire you, who is giving you courage. Because I think sometimes it's really lovely to be thinking about, here it is, radical courage, the movement that I am very fond of. But let's have a waterfall. who who gives you courage to be changing how we're living? Let's have a think about it. See if you can do the waterfall. We'll get Costa to count it down in a minute. Oh, I have to think about who gives me courage
I'm going to do the Dirt Girl
as
countdown
well.
because it was fingers and a moving. It was kind of a throw. I liked it. It was 5. So yeah, I'm gonna replicate that. Yeah, that was it, Dirt Girl. I liked it.
It's actually harder than it looks. Maybe that's just my coordination.
That's why I took it on board. It was like, because it was
it's
a throw.
a challenge.
Here we go, everybody. Do the countdown, Costa.
Okay.
Who gives
5,
you courage?
4, 3, 2, 1.
Push the button. Here we go.
Oh my gosh, Costa, you said who I was going to say. I was going to say Tish and Amelia and the whole gang at Seed Mob.
Ah.
How funny is that? And is that you, Kate? Oh my gosh.
That's me. That's me.
We are all on the same page. That's incredible. We've got some good answers here. We've got Kate Ross saying Gardening Australia and Landline. There's people out there inspiring others. Oh, the Save Sunrise Glossy said that we do. Costa and Dirt Girl.
Oh,
You've been watching us since you were little and now you're 10. That's amazing. Thank you for being such an incredible community member. Grubby love to you.
Yeah. Oh, look at that, Dirt Girl.
We're honoured to have you joining us.
Kirsten Bradley from Milkwood and Hannah Maloney from Good Life. Wonderful people. Really, I think radicalising hope, Kate, in line with what you were saying. I like that Irene Gaffney says my grandies.
I love
that's
that.
lovely. I mean, our elders, the more time we spend listening with them, the more we can appreciate the knowledge that they've gathered over the years that we haven't been around. So that's beautiful, Irene. I love that. And then I also like that Diana said Charlie McGee, of course, and Annie Kaysen said equally. So we've got the grandies, but then we've got the grandy daughter because Annie wants the best future for her. So I mean, that's the spectrum. I totally agree that spectrum there is where we've got so much pure joy and opportunity, and then everything in between, we've got the opportunity to make the machinations work and work out how to celebrate both ends of the spectrum.
And I'm loving hearing people talking about things that their family members have done. We've got people whose brothers are planting trees, people who look to their parents for inspiration, who see action being made and taken. We've got Catherine saying the Pacific Climate Warriors, a lot of people saying our children, and, that's who inspires me every day is the next generation. Absolutely. And as we mentioned, Seed Mob, incredible. Tish from Seed Mob is over there at COP26 at the moment, making sure that First Nations voices, First Nations power is being heard over there and having a strong voice. That's what we want. That's what we need. Oh, and we can't forget, all of you inspire us. That's why we're here. That's why I'm not in my PJs yet having a cup of tea with one of my chickens snuggled up in bed. We're here tonight showing up for the conversation despite the shifting scope of what's possible, because all of you have agreed to be here with us as well. So thank you.
MF, thanks, Dirt Girl. As you wrap that, I saw this comment come up from MF about how you deal with feelings of demoralisation when looking at the current outlook, and it's been interesting. I've been in a conference over the last 2 days, looking at that bigger perspective. And I think what really we're talking about here tonight touches right in on what you're feeling, which is this feeling of despair and hopelessness. The best solution to avoid going into that canister and being caught in there and held down is all of the things that everyone is talking about, those day-to-day things that we can say, all right, things are going on. There are amazing groups of people making real-time change. There's been scientific reports illustrate that the hole in the ozone, because of the removal of the CFCs, has now closed back over. And that was an action taken by people that said, hang on, there is a problem, what can we do? And yes, the outlook was, it's going to take 10 or 15 years, but it's happened. There's people powerfully taking on the challenge of ocean cleanups and dealing with the waste in our waterways and so on. And whether you talk about Take Three for the Three, Ocean Impact Organisation, Tangaroa Blue, these are people whose ideals, ethics and work practices are breaking free into other community groups, but not only just in one state, but all around the country. That's that exponential capacity of doing something and then working with others to acknowledge. And that's not to say, that grief doesn't exist. It's very important to acknowledge the grief. And after being in this conference for 2 days, one of the most powerful things you can do is spend time in nature, because nature heals. Yeah. Because as you mentioned earlier, Dirk Girl, we are nature. So when you go back to nature, you're going home, and that will help dissolve those canisters that want to keep spinning you around in a state of fear. Because when you're in a state of fear, you become powerless. When you become powerless, you become immobilized. And when you become immobilized, you then don't have any control over actions because you feel lost. But when you're with groups that engage with and that bring you together and that collective, if there's one thing we need now more than ever, it's the collective. And there's groups out there, and whether it's Land Care, whether it's Farm It Forward, whether it's all of the beach cleanup groups, whether it's Beach Care, Dune Care, River Watch, Stream Watch, Range Care. There's so many different groups, and sometimes it just requires that little step out. And when you step out and connect in a group, people will embrace you, and then suddenly it could be your community garden, could be your school garden, all of those different opportunities. They'll give you an energy and a momentum to sort of leave that side of despair and turn the despair into action. And then with the action comes the regeneration, the personal regeneration, because you grow hope, you grow outcomes, and with the outcomes comes the next step. And then suddenly you're looking down the road, you're not looking down a hole.
Yeah. And
absolutely.
I think that's the thing is, go ahead, Kate.
I was going to say, isn't this beautiful from David? Such a beautiful conversation, and it's given me a lovely little giddy up. We've got this. And I think this is the stuff we're talking about. Hey, like it's the fact that we can support each other and give each other that kind of extra energy to keep going. And I just wanted to say too, I do hear all of the conversations that happen in the big world, and I do hear the sense of urgency and that we need to act with urgency. But I will not fall into the fear and despair level. And not that I don't feel sad at times, but I see that urgency as being a more need for action rather than the giving up sort of thing. I suppose that's what we're all saying, that we all try and work out what it is that works for us when we're feeling sad. And for me, it's about going for a walk. It's about getting back out and planting something. It's about hanging out and talking to my friends. There's, all those things are making sure that we have rehab. Yeah, see, look, dirt rehab is my rehab. It's just, I think that thing of knowing what it is that helps us and then doing it, I think is really important. And when we talk about those everyday habits, I just wanted to put a little plug in because you haven't seen a lot of us this year during COVID. Of course, we've been here online and we've been sending emails and we've been doing all kinds of bits and pieces. But one thing that we have been doing is creating a project for 2022 called Declare Your Care. And we've been working really hard for months and months and months on this to be able to have when Dirk talks about the fact that we need an ecosystem of solutions, what we've been trying to do is build one for you and your family that we're going to be launching in 2022. And I'm so super proud of this project. It's so full of love. It's so full of really good, profound things that we can do together. I'm going to pop the sign up. You can sign up early. We won't annoy you till next year, and we won't annoy you anyway. But we won't annoy you till next year. But I just wanted you to know I thought it was a good time this week when all of this conversation is happening to be able to say that we have been working on something for you and your family for next year as well. And we can't wait. It's going to be fantastic. We're going to be working with the people from Good Empire who've got this spectacular app coming out. It's going to have all those links that people are talking about how we can measure our carbon footprint. We're going to try and provide heaps of tools, but also just heaps of time in nature, writing a family manifesto, getting right back into our hearts, really understanding that we are nature and that when we're talking about looking after and caring for the planet, we're talking about our family, that, we are this one big natural family in here together. So I'll put the link in. I'm sure Dirk and I will like to have a little wrap up. We're getting close to time. But we've got another waterfall. We've got another waterfall as well. So
before we get to the waterfall, Kate.
Yes. You have a little.
Yeah, I'd love to just circle back to that question about what to do when we start to feel despair or overwhelm, because, I hang out in a pretty radiant space and have so much joy in my life, but I definitely feel really deeply tuned into the fact that the scope of what's possible on this planet has shifted and is shifting. But there's this thing called psychological flexibility. It's a big name, and it's about staying connected to what's possible regardless of where the goalposts are. And that's really a big part of resilience that we all need to be cultivating at the moment. We don't just have a future of cascading climate realities. We have a present. It's already here upon us. And so the more resilient and connected we can become, the better this is going to go for us. And when I start to feel overwhelmed, I try and make things really simple and I try and get really specific. So if things are feeling too big, we can't think of all the answers at once. We need to think of what we can do and maybe even break it up into areas. Like, you might have some goals when it comes to plastic. Now, that's not necessarily a direct solution to climate change, but then we can also have a goal when it comes to a household goal, when it comes to transitioning to a more renewable electricity provider. We can get really specific if we just slow down, simplify it, and then sometimes sit down and write it out. Like we write out plans for so many other things in our life. If this really matters to us, let's slow down, let's get specific, and let's connect with what's possible.
And following from what you said there, Dirk Girl, that's where we really wanted to be able to bring in the ideas that you're doing, the things that you're doing, those actions, those little things, because your action shared is potentially 10, 100 or 1,000 others sharing and doing that same thing. And it's not, to me, it's not some happy clappy idea that, the little things when the problems seem so big. It really is the power of those little things to keep you on a steady and balanced day to day. And when you do that, you're actually feeding your own credits, because when you see that step and you say, well, now I'm not even something simple as, separating your food scraps and then being able to separate all the other materials, so that you're not putting the landfill bin out once a week. It goes out once a month. And then you make another little challenge of like, oh no, it's only going to go out once every couple of months because of the changes that you made. That won't happen tomorrow. But it's that idea of adding to these things that you were saying, Dirk Girl. And I see people sometimes are really good at it, maybe when it comes to their fitness, but fitness is really what all of this is about. It's just like training. And as you add this training into your day-to-day, you become that resilient, wide-seeing, comforted individual, because you go, well, I am doing that and I am doing this and I'm improving on this, and suddenly my times are getting better if it was in the gym, but my composting is increasing, or my use of reusable things has doubled. And I'd finish this thought with one little caveat. Data is king. It's queen. It's top of the pile, because if you just do stuff willy-nilly and you don't have any data, and then you look back, you go, well, how much, when was it, when did I begin? So keeping a log, keeping a journal, keeping data of, I talk to people about it when they're growing things. How many cobs of corn did you get off this year? How many zucchinis did you pick? Because then you can say, wow, we picked this many, they were roughly this many kilos. We grew 38 kilos. And then that's leverage, that's power, because data is power for you, inner power, inner strength, knowledge that you're achieving something. So, you put that off the back of what you're saying, Dirk Girl, and those steps registered and recorded become the crowbar to shift the world.
Totally. And data, I have my journal for my veggie garden, and I also have been keeping a journal lately of the birds that are coming in and out of our garden, which gives me so much joy, but also gives me information about what other types of plants I might like to plant to give them habitat or food. I think next season I'm really going to need to plant some more smaller, spikier bushes for the smaller birds. But then we also, Costa, you and I and Scrappy, we look at what we're saving thanks to our solar panels. And then we also can look at the water in the rain tank. There's information all around us. There's ore all around us. There's opportunity all around us.
Yeah, there sure is, Dirk Girl. I totally agree. And I think that's the exciting part. That's the exciting part.
It is.
It's there. That's why I've got these goggles, because I can see with them.
I'm out here in the blinding light of opportunity.
Here's a lovely story too. Hey, look at this. Cecily Fernie, 94, she's been looking after the environment all the life. She told me to pick your totem species and look after it. And I chose the glossy black cockatoo. If everybody does that, like the First Nations people have done for thousands of years, our wildlife will be safe and protected by all of us. Love from Spencer. So beautiful, isn't it? Just so beautiful.
Yeah.
I also saw that as everybody knows, there's a gang of us here in Dirk Girl World. There's Dirk Girl, and there's Costa the Garden Gnome, and there's Scrap Boy, and there's me. But also we've got another beautiful member of our family, our direct family, online tonight. Justine McClimate is there. I saw that she had commented, and I want to give a massive call out to Justine, because she's been working with us on this Declare Your Care project as well. She's an incredible writer, and we've just been so lucky to have her join our Dirko World family, especially during COVID. She has been unbelievable. So our huge love to you, Justine, as you are sitting there, we know, with your little family as well. So I think that we might have time, unless you've got anyone. We'll have another waterfall, and then we might do some wrap up thinking. How's that? And the last waterfall is, see, I don't even give you time to say yes. This is why I'm not on the calls very often. That's why I'm not allowed to be on the streams. I'm just too bossy. Anyway.
Glossy. Glossy.
Too
or
glossy. Too glossy. All right. Here's our last waterfall for the night. And it is, what new thing are you choosing to start to do to grow a climate safe future? So we've been talking, did you get a great idea from somebody tonight? Did you hear about the conversation around what are we doing with our food scraps? You know, is it travel? What is this? Is there something that you've just gone, yep, look, I could do better with this one. I haven't looked at that part of my life. I'm going to give that a go. I'm going to try and make this an everyday behavior. So we were talking about too, if you with our food scraps, we don't audit them very often. You might want to do something quite disgusting and tip out your compost bucket and have a little look at what's actually going in there and say to yourself, are we buying too much food in the first place? You know, do we need less food? Or are we not eating leftovers because there's some stuff in our compost that we could have probably used in other dishes? I think sometimes we just don't get forensic enough with our food scraps. Maybe it's me. I kind of like tipping out my compost and having a good look at it. But have a little think about, is there something new that you are choosing to start to do to grow a climate safe future? That's our last waterfall. It's a beauty. It's a promise. It's a possibility. And Dirko's going to give us the countdown because it's your turn. Are you ready to give us a countdown? All right, are you all typing away? I hope you're all typing. Here we go. Here's the countdown from Dirko.
That's me. I got too excited with the warm up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Waterfall.
All right, they're all coming in. Okay, I'll stick them across and you can have a little yak about them. Here we go. Oh, they're flowing in. Here we go.
I'm loving this. There really is an ecosystem of choices here that people can dig into, can give a go. We've got downsizing someone's car. That's an awesome option. We've got David, who's getting better with his chook scraps. That's incredible. We've got Amelia Jane, who is establishing compost systems in her apartment building. And see, that's a gift that keeps on giving and inspires other people to make similar sustainable choices.
Oh, yeah.
We've got so many answers here. Costa, what are you reading?
Asking neighbours, Diana, asking neighbours for their food scraps. I like the one to teach more people with my photographs how beautiful nature is and how complex. And I really like that one because we can't stand up for something until we connect with it. And then when we connect with it and we love it, then we can stand up for it. So that's a really, really valuable one that will play out long term, like the last one you chatted about, Dirk Girl. I have a dog, so I very rarely have food scraps. But that's good too, because there is no waste.
We've got an awesome one here.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I got too excited.
No,
Please,
that's all right. What is it?
Costa.
Roll it out. I'll get the next one.
Fund seagrass and wetlands conservation programs. They're incredible natural sinks for carbon, for biodiversity, a great example of an ecosystem of benefits as well as our ecosystem of choices here.
Yeah, look at Catherine Gibb
Ooh.
here, converting the front yard to a food forest to show the community. So you're doing your thing, but you're amplifying, Catherine, and that's exactly what we've been talking about today. And Jimmy, exchanging food scraps for eggs, then you're basically carrying that ethos of crop swapping, and that's the ultimate in growing it local and the whole grow it local movement. So I mean, those two alone are these wonderful intermingled examples of that power of resilience in local community.
Yeah. Claire, she talks about that we all have time, treasure, or talent. So choosing what we can give. Like next year, you might decide to only donate to one organization and it might be about climate action. Or you might know that you have more time than money. And so you're going to use your time to affect positive change and to connect with the awe of our planet. You know, I think that's an awesome way to keep it simple when we go, oh, there's so many options. I love that. I love that bit of wisdom. Time, treasure, or talent. Very nice. It's a good one, hey?
That's great. I mean, and they're the ones that stick, and then you can share that, Dirt Girl, and I can share that. This one's such a good one. Experiences over gifts for Christmas and birthdays and things like that. That's an oldie, but it's never an oldie. It's just a goodie. You know, it's just. I'm not going to repeat that because no, it's just a perennial.
I love that. And I think, Kate, you're right. We do have to wrap up, but I'm actually going to follow on from that comment, Costa, to another one, which I think it's timeless. Let's say that it's a timeless choice. And there's a couple of people who've said a similar thing in different words, which I also love, but I'm just finding where it was. It was wanting less, buying less. And I think this is such an interesting kind of point to finish on, because sometimes we don't have to choose to give everything up at once. We can choose just to have less of something. We can choose to swap something out. And I just want to say something about discomfort as well. There may be a bit of discomfort as we transition to make sure that all of the incredible resources on this planet can reach many people, equally, and that the effects of climate change are also not unfair and unequal, which we know that they're heading to be. So if we feel some discomfort because we're giving something up or we're swapping something out, we can take that discomfort and, clock it as a sign of change, because unfamiliar can be uncomfortable, but it doesn't mean it's not awesome. It doesn't mean we're not heading in a better direction. And it doesn't mean we're not going to love where we're heading. It just means we're in a place of change. And we know, Costa, Kate, we know that this is about meaningful, sustainable change, not just quick fixes. This isn't the diet version of a choice. This is about us all working towards a healthier, more vital future for the next generation of humans and non-human kin.
Totally. Absolutely. Beautiful words, Dirt Girl. And of course, I want to give a big call out to everybody who joined us tonight. Thank you. It means so much to us to be able to gather as a community. It feeds our hearts and feeds our hearts of being with you. It's and also for hanging out with us all through COVID. We really, really thank you for sticking and being with us and talking to each other and being this beautiful community. We've had 1 million people a week sharing ideas and comments during times when everyone was at home. And so we just want to say thank you. So much joy. And I always say that change is you can't wear a Hessian bag to the change party because no one's going to want to be your friend. You have to wear. I think it's about us understanding the joy of change and understanding that what we're doing is to create a beautiful future for everybody, every living thing, and every child. That it's a good goal to be having. So it's just been lovely, a lovely night. Thanks, Costa and Dirk Girl, for staying up late. We're going
The chickens won't know what's going on.
I know, they're not going to. That's
The
right.
chickens will think it's the creepy crawly conger all over again. All right, I've got to go because I've got to get up early. Scrappy and I have grand plans that is a mystery to you.
Grand plans.
Costa, love you so much. Kate, love you.
Great girl.
Love you too. We're going to finish with a
Kate.
beautiful
Thanks.
song.
Thank you, everyone.
An awesome
good night,
song.
everyone.
What's it going to take? This is a beautiful song, full of heart, full of love, and also full of courage. Here we go.
I dream of little things making a difference. I think of little changes I could make. I can't do very much about indifference. The big people know all of the science. Reports of our planet are all in. It's time to just let go of our reliance. The best way to start is to begin. It's natural to